What if I told you there is something alive on this planet that can invade your brain, take complete control of your body, and force you to do exactly what it wants while you are still alive? Not a virus, not a parasite in the traditional sense, a fungus. And it is doing this right now in rainforests across the world with terrifying precision. Scientists who study it say it is one of the most sophisticated biological systems ever discovered on Earth. And the worst part, the part that should keep you up at night, is that we still don't fully understand how it works. This is the story of Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, the zombie fungus. And by the end of this video, you will never think about free will the same way again. Let's start with what this thing actually does, because when you hear it described clinically, it sounds impossible. Deep in the tropical rainforests of Brazil, Thailand, and Central Africa, there lives a species of carpenter ant. These ants are highly organized. They follow pheromone trails. They operate in strict social hierarchies. They know exactly where they are supposed to be at all times. And then one ant inhales a spore, a single microscopic spore from Ophiocordyceps unilateralis, and from that moment, that ant is no longer in control of itself. The fungus begins growing inside the ant's body, not killing it, not immediately. Instead, it spreads through the ant's tissues, threading itself into muscle fibers, surrounding organs, and eventually reaching the brain. What happens next is where this stops being just a nature fact and starts being something that should genuinely disturb you. The ant begins behaving strangely. It abandons its colony. It wanders away from its trail. It starts climbing, up a plant stem, up a leaf, higher and higher, and then, at a very specific height above the forest floor, the ant stops. It locks its jaw onto the underside of a leaf vein, with a bite so powerful it cannot be undone, and it dies. But the fungus is not done. Over the next few days, a stalk erupts from the back of the ant's head. It grows upward, and then it bursts, releasing millions of spores, raining down exactly onto the ant trails below, infecting the next wave of victims. The ant was never running. It was a delivery vehicle, a biological drone, programmed, piloted, and disposed of. Now here is what makes this even more unsettling. The fungus doesn't just control the ant randomly, it controls it with extraordinary precision. Researchers at Penn State University spent years studying exactly how infected ants behave, and what they found was this. Every single infected ant climbs to almost exactly the same height above the forest floor, between 25 and 30 centimeters. No higher, no lower. Why? Because that specific height has the perfect humidity and temperature for fungal spore dispersal. The fungus has somehow calculated the optimal launch position, and it uses the ant's legs to get there. Think about what that means. This fungus has no brain, no nervous system, no eyes, no way of consciously perceiving the world, and yet it is making navigational decisions inside a living creature. Decisions that require understanding of height, temperature, humidity, and biology that most humans couldn't calculate without instruments. Penn State researcher David Hughes, one of the world's leading experts on this fungus, described it this way. The fungus is a master manipulator that has evolved over millions of years to exploit its host with surgical precision. Millions of years. This system did not appear overnight. It evolved. It was refined. Every inefficiency was eliminated over millions of generations until what remained was a perfect biological hijacking machine. But here is the part of this story that the science community is still actively debating. And it is the part that changes everything about how you think about this fungus. For a long time, scientists assumed the fungus was directly controlling the ant's brain, invading the neurons, rewriting signals, forcing the ant's body to move against its will, like a puppeteer pulling strings through the ant's nervous system. But in 2017, a team of researchers at Penn State published a study that revealed something far stranger. When they examined infected ants under powerful microscopy, they found that the fungal cells had not significantly invaded the brain at all. The ant's brain was almost entirely intact, physically untouched, and yet the ant was completely under the fungus's control. So how was it doing it? The answer? was the muscles. The fungus had infiltrated every muscle group in the ant's body, surrounding individual muscle fibers, and was controlling the ant's physical movement directly, bypassing the brain entirely. The ant's brain was still there, still running, possibly still aware, but it had no control over its own body. Its muscles were being operated from the outside. Researcher Charissa de Becker, who has spent her career studying this phenomenon, described it as the fungus essentially becoming a second nervous system inside the host. The ant's own nervous system still exists. It just no longer has authority. I want you to sit with that for a second. The ant might be aware, trapped inside its own body, watching itself climb, watching itself bite down, unable to stop, unable to scream. We don't know. We genuinely do not know what the ant experiences, but we know its brain is intact, and that question has no comfortable answer. Now, you might be thinking, okay, this is horrifying for ants, but it's just ants. It can't affect humans, right? Right? With one very important asterisk. Ophiocordyceps fungi are extraordinarily host-specific. Each strain evolved to target one specific species. The ant version cannot infect humans. The biology is completely different. Our immune systems, our body temperature, our cellular structure, all of it creates an environment the fungus cannot survive in. But here is what should make you pause. There are over 600 known species of Ophiocordyceps fungi. Each one evolved to target a different host. Ants, beetles, moths, flies, spiders, every single one uses the same core strategy: infect, manipulate, deploy. The fungus didn't evolve this strategy once and get lucky. It evolved it independently across hundreds of different lineages because it works. Because hijacking a living host from the inside and using it as a vehicle is one of the most effective survival strategies nature has ever produced. And here is the scientific reality that no researcher will tell you is impossible. Fungi mutate. Fungi evolve. Ophiocordyceps has been evolving for an estimated 48 million years. The strain that targets ants today looks nothing like what it looked like 10 million years ago. The question is not whether a fungus could ever develop the capability to affect human neurology. Several fungi already produce compounds that affect the human brain. Ergot fungus caused mass hysteria in medieval Europe, entire villages experiencing hallucinations and seizures from contaminated grain. Psilocybin mushrooms directly alter human consciousness. Fungi and human neurology have a relationship. The question is whether anything in nature could close the remaining gap. And 48 million years of evolution says, never say never. Here is something most people don't know. The ants have figured this out. Carpenter ant colonies have developed a remarkably sophisticated response to the zombie fungus. Worker ants can actually detect when a nestmate has been infected before any symptoms appear, purely through chemical signals. When they identify an infected ant, they don't kill it inside the nest. They carry it. They physically pick it up and carry it far away from the colony, depositing it at a distance, where even if the fungus completes its cycle, the spores cannot reach the nest. The colony essentially has a quarantine protocol, an early warning system, a biological public health response. But it gets more interesting. Researchers also discovered a secondary fungus, a hyperparasite, that specifically attacks Ophiocordyceps. This second fungus invades the zombie fungus itself, preventing it from fully developing, stopping spore release. Nature built a counterweapon, something evolved specifically to fight the mind controller. In some forests, researchers have found that up to 60% of zombie fungus stalks are infected by this hyperparasite, meaning the forest has developed its own immune response to one of the most dangerous organisms inside it. The ecosystem is fighting back. This is what millions of years of evolutionary warfare looks like. Not explosions, not drama, tiny silent chemical battles happening in every square meter of rainforest continuously, invisibly, right now. Let's zoom out because there is a bigger question buried in all of this. What is free will? You wake up in the morning. You decide to check your phone. You decide what to eat. You decide what to say to the people around you. You feel like you're in control. You feel like your decisions come from you, from your values, your desires, your personality. But here is what neuroscience has been quietly establishing for decades. Your decisions are made by your brain before you are consciously aware of them. Studies using brain imaging have shown that the neural activity that produces a decision begins up to 10 seconds before the person reports being aware of making that decision. You experience the choice, but the machinery that produced it was already running without you. Now, add the zombie fungus back into this picture. The fungus doesn't override the ant's brain. It bypasses it. It takes control of the physical body while the brain continues to function. It separates the experience of existing from the ability to act. Is that so different from what is already happening inside every living creature, including you? Your hormones change your behavior. Your gut bacteria produce compounds that influence your mood and decisions. Parasites like Toxoplasma gondii, which infects roughly 1/3 of all humans, have been shown in studies to subtly alter risk-taking behavior and personality. You are not a single organism making free choices. You are an ecosystem, a collection of biological systems, some of which are yours, some of which are not. All of them shaping what you think of as your decisions. The zombie fungus just makes that visible. It strips away the illusion and shows you the mechanism underneath. And once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Here is what I want you to carry with you after this video. Right now, in a rainforest somewhere in Brazil or Thailand, an ant is climbing. It doesn't know why. It has no choice. Something else decided. Something with no brain, no eyes, no consciousness as we understand it, made a decision for a living creature with more precision than most humans are capable of. That fungus has been doing this for 48 million years, long before humans existed, long before anything we recognize as intelligence walked this planet. And we only started understanding it in the last 2 decades. What does that say about intelligence? What does that say about control? What does that say about what we call a mind? I don't have a clean answer. Nobody does. But I think that's exactly why this matters. The most important questions rarely have clean answers. They just have the courage to keep asking. If this changed how you think about something, subscribe, because that's all we do here. And drop your answer in the comments. If something was controlling your body right now, would you know? Think carefully before you answer.